Hello, my name is Huiting. I'm from Resolution Games. Today I'm very glad to be here to talk about player research in our VR game development. And this is Nika, he's my colleague, and he's the game developer. So he will join the Q&A session give some input from game developer side. So we will I will do approximately 15 minutes talk, and we will have some 5 minutes or more Q&A session. So, yes, let's start. First, I would like to talk a little bit about me. I study software engineering and Japanese in my bachelor in China. And then I joined the Human Computer Interaction program in KDH. When I seek for my master thesis, I was very lucky to meet Resolution Games. Because personally, I'm really into VR. I had this nice epiphany moment in VIC, the visualization studio in KDH. So it is actually really exciting and actually quite fun to work with VR. And after my thesis work, I keep working Resolution Games as a player researcher. So talking about Resolution Games, we are actually one of the first game studio in the world who only work with VR. We focus on mobile VR, but we also believe virtual computing will be bigger than the internet. So here, virtual computing refers to mixed reality, which includes both VR and AR. So at the same time, we explore AR a bit. So let's come to our topic today, player research. For some of you who are not really familiar with this topic, I will explain a bit. So player research, also known as game user research or game user experience, is actually one part of the game development who help the game to reach their design goals by studying players' psychology and behavior. There are several techniques we are often use. The most well-known one probably is playtesting. So in playtesting, we invite players to try our under-development games and even some prototypes. So during the session, we will kind of take notes on their behavior. And after the play session, we always follow up with some interviews and questionnaire to collect more data on both performance and preference. So another common method is analytics. This is more common, probably you're working with programming, as telemetry in the game. So data hooks, in-game data hooks. Other methods include long-term engagement diary. This is applied when the designers want to know kind of how players play the game in a longer period, instead of 1 or 2 hours, probably 1 week. And also, this can be conducted in a more natural environment, like you're sitting in the sofa of your living room instead of being in a lab. So it's more natural. So using all of this, as a player researcher, we aim to have the dev team to deliver the player the best possible gaming experience. So in Resolution Games, we do player researcher out of the 3 reasons. The first one, we want to identify the design, the player base, to design for them. I think personally this is the most difficult one because as we know, VR technology just develops so fast. So actually, how to define the market out of nowhere is very challenging. The second one, we want to maximizing player impact on our game. We want our game to be player-centered, and also we want to have player feedback during the time we develop our games. So the third one is also the most important one. I want to help our dev team to take the right and the most impactful decisions when building our games. There are a lot of perspectives in our player research, and today I'm going to share one of the core features in our player research. So, how will you measure success of your game? I believe different people have different thoughts on this, and for us, in order to measure the success of our game, we introduce this concept, success criteria. So essentially this means what's the goal you set for yourself to say, we can view our game to be successful. This made by the joint effort of the whole team, including the game designer, producer, and every team members. And then we have this list of criteria. The typical criteria can include understanding of the gameplay, how the player understands the game, and also the feeling of the players at a certain point. And it can also be like, oh, the maximum number of arrows or round turns we can tolerate the player like to do when they play the game. You will find sometimes you will have difficulty ascertaining the success criteria. That probably reflects that your dev team's confusion about the gameplay or the game design. So establishing and documenting success criteria is very good exercise just for that reason alone. So when you probably will like to do this, you can see like when you include the criteria into your player research, you actually add precision into what you are measuring and how you view your game. So later it can be applied to both the game, like play testing during the game development, and also the telemetry after you release the game. And then you can, according to this, and then try to adjust your game even after game release. So first I will have an example. It's a bit like not very concrete. So let's have an example. This example is actually from our latest game, Narrows. We released Narrows last Thursday. Yes, very quite new. It's a roguelike pirate adventure game. So our first success criteria is actually the player does spontaneous window shopping in ship selection. So at the beginning of the game, we have a theme that players can select different ships to travel with. But at first, you only have one ship you can travel, and other ship actually locked. So probably you can feel actually this success criteria is very important because it reflects motivation. So we want the players actually want to unlock the game. That's how they progress. But from the result of earlier playtesting, it's actually quite bad. So this is our thing. So for most of the players, they will click probably one or two ships the first time you go to the thing, and they are kind of down. And then every time they restart, they directly go to the cheapest one. And I asked them why they did that. They actually mentioned that, oh, because I don't have enough resources to unlock the one later. And also, more important is like, it seems like the ship is just like bigger and better one by one. So they lost their interest very fast. And then when I reported the results, the dev team started to think about, oh, we want players to do spontaneous window shopping, but why? Because actually the player wants to get something from doing it. So our solution is actually, we try to make the ship more different, to make them more stand out. So you can see there are different types of ships. Some of them very powerful, but they only have captain when they start. There's no crew members. And one of the ships are powered with magic, with voodoo spell. And one ship is have larger cargo, and one ship is bigger, so you have more space to upgrade. So another solution is we try to make full use of VR. So for this image, it's actually quite impressive when I first time seeing VR, especially use mobile VR. So it's like, oh, it's so big in front of you. And in this way, we kind of want the player to be more psyched by the ships they're going to have. So in this way, we actually bring the results 2 levels up, which is quite good. It's not perfect yet, but we did our best within the time limit. So this one I want to, at some point, is like we have a special way, to kind of transfer from the player's feedback to this faces, the smiles. So it's more like visualized for us. So how to fit the success criteria into your timeline. So this is a typical project in resolution games. Probably is very similar to other projects. You can see we have different phases from discovery all the way to polish. So our first set of success criteria, we aim to be at the end of discovery. So we have so much prototype, and we compare, and we have some game idea. Let's say we have 3 features here at the end of the discovery. And then surrounding these 3 features, we can have our first set of success criteria. And then at the end of vertical, so we have call loops. So here the call loops means the call loop of the game. The game design is not the call loop in the programming. Like, it's just like, because it's a bit confusing here. So we aim to have 4 set of success criteria, but no worries if you can't have all, because the most possible case is like between 80% to 100, because probably will change a lot during the production. In the mid-production, however, we want to lock down the success criteria. We will revisit and revise them, and then we look down. You're not supposed to make changes for it. However, we don't want this happen, that all is almost polished, and then you're still juggling with different criteria. I would say probably it's not a good signal for game design part. So I have another example here. So this is in our port. So in the game, it's a pirate game, so in the port. Success criteria number 23. The player is intrigued by exciting items they cannot yet purchase. So this is our port. You have a shopkeeper, you have crew members, and different items you're going to purchase. And in the game, you can get different gold from battles. You loot in the battles. And also you can get from different encounters. And you get this gold, and we want the player to spend in the shop. So in the earlier, player behavior will be like, oh, they buy some food, or they buy some ammo, and then instead of checking the items we want them to check, they start to click on the crew members. But we want them to click on the items, because that's the way you can upgrade your ship. So our team talk about it, and we mark it as a sad face. Yeah, because it's not very successful and ideal. So we have a solution to it. One is because of ground research. So there are a lot of reports, and a lot of big companies give some suggestions how to develop the VR games. The report indicates nearly almost 50% of time in mobile VR is spent in video experience. And actually, video is a core use of mobile VR. So as a developer, we want to use this point to augment the experience of players. And also, it's just because game is, in the game generally, the video is very fun. So we add the small GIF on the shop. So you can see normally this one of our premium cannon, kind of mortar cannon. So now in this way, players can see it more clear in how it will going to work in the game. So this another benefit is actually we can play around with the text in the description of the item. Instead of only to show the function, actually we can make it more fun. And also we have this very nice sea monster. You know, when you see the video, it's actually quite cool, but if only shows small items, probably it's not as cool as showing the GIF. So, yes, so actually in this way, in our later verification test, people actually quite like it. They start to click and say, oh, this is really cool. They just do something loud and just say it, very naturally. So, to round about, I want to bring up one question, probably can give you a little bit of thought. So me and Peter is the producer for Narrows. We talk about player research, but it's more in an extensive way. We have a list of questions, but it's more philosophical for thoughts. We name them tough questions. This is one of them. For what reasons would I put on a VR headset a second time? If you think about it, actually quite tricky. Probably it's just what every of us just just pause and think about it. Just if we pass the novelty of VR, if we pass the honeymoon of VR, for what reason would I put on a VR headset a second time? So that's my speech. Thank you.